we've got, these events that we kind of run are put on through a lot of effort and time and supported by a number of great sponsors. I'm going to say more about those as we go through the day. But what I wanted to do first is just kind of frame what Interact London is, because I get asked this question a lot. So I thought I'd just say a few words about what it is. So this is our second year, and I think that we've got 2 days of really kind of exciting, thought-provoking presentations. I could be quite a challenging guy because people will say, well, what's the theme of this thing? What's it about? And I tend to be quite vague about that because I want to encourage people to think, to be abstract, because I think that's the sort of consideration that we need to have, especially as designers in the 21st century. This idea of that there's a roadmap, a way of doing things, a sense of best practice. These things, to me now, after sort of doing this for 20 years, seem a little bit like a nonsense. There is no the right way. There are many ways to do many things. And I think this is true of us as human beings as well, and especially as designers. And I think in a world where digital kind of touches everything, I mean, one of the new concepts, we're no longer saying that this, that we're living in, say, a postmodernistic epoch. We call this now the digimodern epoch. Is this a concept that many people know? Show of hands, have you heard this before? Digimodernism? Of course, Duncan from Virgin at the back has heard it because we've pontificated about it for a long time. Over beers, as you do. But, this is quite an important fact in its own right, that we're living in what is called the postmodernistic age. Things are different. What does it mean as designers in terms of how we design? Why do we design? What do we need to design better experiences? What does that mean in terms of helping to support better society? These are the kind of things that I want people to sort of touch on. So this is a day to sort of think in a more abstract way about design and the importance of design and how design can help us to do things better, to be better. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Vanessa to the stage, Head of UX for Argus, who's going to talk to us about UX Fables. Round of applause, please.
Morning, everyone. Thanks, first of all, to Nemenska for inviting me. What a great venue. I'm just chuffed to be in the museum. I think I'm less of a keynote. I'm more of a warm-up act. I didn't really want to start hot, heavy at the beginning of the day, so I thought unicorns. Unicorns, I've got loads of reasons why I want to talk about unicorns. There's a lot of chit-chat about them, obviously, at the moment, and I've just moved back from Australia. There are a hell of a lot of unicorns there, and in New Zealand. And I also, I don't know about you guys, but when you get recruiters talking to you or people trying to hire you, and they sort of ask you all questions, like I was talking to a bank, and they said, so have you done anything to help customers? And I'm going, 25 years in user experience. You'd think I'd done something somewhere. I don't know how to respond to questions like that anymore. So I quite get into the unicorns and things. Little background on me. This is me. This was my wireframe. This was in my leaving card from Australia. I quite liked it. Had a guy who was a cartoonist and had drawn a wonderful illustration. Totally unflattering, so I'm not showing you that. And one of my other guys said, well, no, I can do it better. Look, I can do this. I have been doing this for about 25 years. I am quite old. When I started, we didn't even have a mouse attached to the PC. In our usability lab, we had to then train traders at Reuters to take their hands off the keyboards and put them on the mouse, and they said, no way, you just lost me a sale. So that's where I sort of started from. It's way back in the midst of DOS. And now moving on. So I just really wanted to have a quick chat. What I'm going to go through very quickly, and apparently a lot quicker than I thought I was going to go through it. Is that right? Quick flash of the design economy. Lovely new words coming out everywhere. I think this is a big thing for me as well. Here we are. This is a discipline where we talk about consistency and everything must be the same. You must make life easy for people. You must do all these things. And we can't even decide whether we're called HCI. We can't decide if we're Chi. We've got new terms coming up all the time. And who are these designers? And then do they need to become unicorns? And really, what's the value of design? So that all sounds very wonderful and esoteric, but really it's just a lot of fluff to get you going in the day. Design economy. This I didn't know. This I didn't know until the other day. 71.7 billion in the UK economy. And we're recruiting designers into commerce at 3 times the normal rate. Design is really, really rolling. It really goes. And unfortunately, one of the other things that makes me think about unicorns are the people that can say, you get a couple of comments about things that anybody can design, which is great. But also, there's so many ways to do this designing thing. So I love this picture. Dave Gray did this. I think this is fantastic. I think this actually, this was put up as what's the definition of user experience. And I think this really shows what it is. Everybody has a different way, and there's nothing wrong with it. Every single one of those is a cat, just which is the right cat. So who becomes these designers? Who are the designers? What do they do? Where will they go with this stuff? So this is a little bit of me sort of saying, this is how I kind of do things. So eventually, you know, when I'm hiring, because I hire a lot of people, I run a lot of teams in a lot of places, lots of countries, big teams, little teams, startups, client side, agency side. And so I've got this sort of arrogance where I can say, you know what, this is just what I do. So I'm hoping this will help people in the room. If they're part of a team, I know I get a lot of people who come to me and say, why don't these people understand what I do? Why do they expect me to do visual design when I'm actually a wireframing person? Why do they expect me to be able to code when I'm a visual designer? And there's lots of people who come to me. I had a guy last week at Argos, actually from Homebase, saying to me, where do I take my career now? I don't know what I'm supposed to be. So a lot of this is more about the sort of, I have a philosophy on it. I'm just sharing my philosophy with you. You can agree, you can disagree. It's all great. It's all parts of what we do. I might stop for a little while, just let a few people come in. Do come in, sit down, enjoy yourself. Come down the front, we're lovely, we're friendly. There's loads of them, there's like a rash of people coming in. We're all good. I'll keep going. So, user experience too, as you can see, we used to be called user-centered design, then we got called customer-centered design. I used to be a human factors engineer. We had all kinds of things going on. Different names, different things, and I would say there are 5 key roles that we sort of have going on inside a user experience team. This is where everybody gets really annoyed with me. Information architect. I don't want to be an information architect. That's not a good label. Don't like it. I'm old, it's what I do, it's an information architect. Front-end devs, visual designers, research and insight, copywriters, gold dust copywriters, gold dust. They're the most important people you can have. But they're all just labels. There's all these other names that you can have and everything happens. And this always happens. People come to me and they say, what should we call ourselves? I've literally had debates going on for days about what your job title is. So I just always call myself, I've been the director of buzzwords for eons. I don't really care what you're called. What I care about is whether you've got the skills that we need to get the things done. And everybody's right about the stuff that we do. Everybody's right. You need different people for different situations. So obviously this is just a very generic way of talking about things. But this is where the rise of the unicorn came along. Does he really exist? So I thought I'd do a little bit of research, does he exist? And I found that there were 4 kinds of people out there talking about unicorns. First of all, you have the seller. How to become a UX unicorn in 5 easy steps. Now, I'm not sure about you, but if I read those 5 easy steps, that's pretty much how you do anything in life. And then if you read the small print, and if you want to do it, you can come to our library and get a little course at $23 a month, and isn't that great? So there might be a slightly different motive there, which I can't really be too harsh, because I do love Jared Spool. I think he's a great proponent in the UX world. Then you've got the evangelists. This is so doable. You can do this. If you can do all of these things, tick these off the list, you can become a unicorn. Not that hard. And in this, he goes on and he talks about you've got to read books, learn to code, you've got to learn psychology. I like that. I go, so all those degrees that I did, where I spent years doing this stuff, I can suddenly just learn it just. When do you get your work done? I don't really understand. If you're going to learn all this stuff and do all these things, and psychology is an amazing field. It's I'm a behavioural psychologist. I have no doubt I'm the only behavioural psychologist. Anybody here behavioural, or are you all cognitive? Oh, yay, go. One with you. I believe we're nothing but stimulus. I don't believe we have free will. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I think we're all stimulus and reaction. So it's quite interesting. And I believe if you really want to learn about something, there's a depth to what you do. The next one is the theorist. Clearly they exist. And they go on about the actual skills that you have, which relate a lot to the guys that I saw you with the Lego heads. And then they've got to have set up soft skills. There's a lot of talk about empathy. Empathy with the user. Empathy with technical people. There's a lot of... I look at this and go, this just makes you a nice person. So this one's a bit taking the piss, right? The automator. Design isn't hard to learn. There you go, fantastic. We can all do it, it's great, it's fantastic. And the reason it's not hard to learn is because there are products out there, so as long as you've got an app, you can do some design. That's great, isn't it? So where did this little unicorn come from? I just wanted to go a little bit through history and go through a few things here. I won't go through... Can you read that? It's a bit small. No, it's a bit small, isn't it? That's a bit of a shame. On the right-hand side are little blue boxes where you can see these. I think these are really key events. On the left-hand side is as we're going through. So Xerox PARC, that's the first sort of the neuro-linguistic stuff, but also getting to the point where we've got the first PCs coming out where mouse-driven cursors are used. So back in the 60s, we were starting to build all this stuff up. And the Xerox Alto came out in 1973. That's really your first PC, and that's all great. And over on the right-hand side, IKEA launched in 1943. That's quite revolutionary in design techniques. And I mean, it was another decade or so before he really got it going to the point that it became great stuff. But I love IKEA because they do the best instructions in the world. And as you go through, we've got more things going on here. We've got on the left-hand side, Tim Berners-Lee starts on Inquire back in 1980. We've got, all on the right-hand side, a lot of the models that really feed, and I think a lot of people who do user experience don't even know the science behind a lot of what we do. So the GOMS theory. Anybody know the GOMS theory? Goals, operating models? Few people. And there's books on the right-hand side. Interaction design was a phrase coined by Mogridge and Verplank, so that's the IDEO guys. But on the right-hand side, where you start to see things happen, that's a bit dodgy, the one at the top right, IDEO inventing the first mouse. According to IDEO, they did it in 1980, but IDEO didn't exist till 1991. Unclear, so let's just go with it. It just sounded good to me that a mouse was being born in 1980. 1984, Apple put that ad out during Super Bowl, basically making personal computers part of the home. And that's a massive step, I think, in the experience things that we have going on. Down at the bottom, the Challenger disaster. That's a massive thing for me in this industry. Tufty coming up with the way that you lay out information is massively important and is actually critical. And clearly, PowerPoint kills all things. But it kind of carries on. We go through free software. You're starting to get to open source, ISO 9241. It even gets renamed later on. Amazon starts. So he starts to do reviews. This is quite big. User-generated content starts to happen. Inmates Are Running the Asylum comes out. Hang on a minute. Over here, the man who invented Visual Basic is now talking about personas. Personas, which have been done for years and years by ergonomists, are now suddenly really, really popular and really easy to do. He created them in a way that made everybody take it into the commerce world, and things started to happen. So it's quite interesting, and you just go through all these things, and suddenly all the books are coming out, everything's happening. That wonderful ballot paper in Florida, that was a godsend. If you were trying to sell usability in 2000, that was fantastic. You just said, there you go, that's what happens. If you lay things out wrong, it all goes wrong, you get the wrong president, and the world goes to hell. Even just things like on the right-hand side, you remember when Target got the new bottles for the drugs that stand on the caps? All with me on that one? Look it up, she's fantastic. It's one of the biggest design challenges we've had. But look on the left-hand side. Now, instead of it being about things, it's more about programs. We're like, Facebook's gone, smartphones are coming in, YouTube's been founded, the iPhone came along, Airbnb launched. So what's going on? So we've got this sort of timeline of things going on. So as user experience professionals. We started off, as I said, without even a mouse in front of us. And we were looking at flows, we were looking at tasks, we were looking at goals. Then the GUI came along, and yes, most of you probably have never even looked at something without a GUI. And that's when the windows, the icons, the menus, and the pointing devices came in. So we started to look at that. The web came in, glamour came. Suddenly we were doing little things, we were doing banners, everything got visual, everything got great, everything got sexy. But still a bit limited, we still had page loads. Marketing started to come in, lots of disruption, lots of stuff going on, lots of iterative stuff, lots of production happening. And when I remember sitting with a friend in New York and going, what's happened to the web? It's really boring. It used to be great. When we were dot-comming and it was great and it was really energetic, what's happened to marketeers have come in. The marketeers have come in and they're telling us how to do the job that we've been doing for the last 20 years. It's true. But now we're all starting to work together and everything comes together. And we're now at this far right where we've got distributed assets. We've got everything everywhere. So what we're really doing is just bringing those left brains and right brains together, which I'm sure you've seen in many a presentation. But it is quite interesting how we start to pull that together. And once you've got the marketeers involved, this is such a typical marketing kind of statement, but it's great. It's what this is about, the experience that you have with the product, not with the design of the product. So we're designing now for all kinds of weird experiences, all sorts of things going on, and for differentiation. Now, I should bear in mind, I preface this entire presentation that this is clearly the capitalised Western world. And this all applies to the capitalised Western world. There's a whole other part of user experience which is much better for the greater good. And this is about different, I'm talking from retail, get out there, e-commerce point of view. The norms are shifting. I think we all know that. There's some lovely stuff going on. How we interact with things, how we shop, how we travel, how we get around, how we even just get the supermarket goods these days. The tools are actually influencing what we do and how we play with things and how we play with each other. All the different bits. I love this one at the top left, where you can see a girl trying to fix her sink with her dad on the iPad, bringing it all through. And it's just fantastic. All this connection is great. It's just getting bigger and bigger every day. The digital convergence is happening. We're going across different things. And collaborative consumption is obviously where we're really at. Now, I could have shown you a picture of Airbnb at this point, but Airbnb is now becoming a bit like Apple. It's in every single presentation. And I just think, borrow a doggy. I think we're just hitting limits now where I'm quite scared about stuff. I mean, didn't your mum tell you that these things are kind of weird, lending things to people you don't know? And there's your dog, and you let your dog, and I'm not sure. I wouldn't. Internet of Things, everything's connected, it's all connected, and everything's sellable now. You can sell anything to anybody. And as designers, we're influencing traditional processes. We're starting to do design-led thinking. People are getting on board with it, dragging it in. How many of you have actually had that happen in the organisation that you're in, have been helping an organisation pull themselves through with design-led thinking, see them change? Yeah, it's great. I was in an investment bank before I came up to Argos. And it was great. We were pushing design-led thinking. I had a fantastic MD who kept us going all the way through it. And he really wanted that to go through the whole bank. It's done really well. So the question is, with all of this stuff, do we really need a unicorn? Because there's so much going on. There's lots to do. There's lots of places to go. So I would like you, do you have a pen and a piece of paper? This is analog. Just take a piece of paper. I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise for me. Won't take long. Why are you not doing it? What's the matter? Get on with it. Come on. I'd like you to draw me a vase, please. Not too fancy. Too fancy if you like. So everybody's struggling. What the hell's a piece of paper and a pen? If you had a digital whiteboard, you could do it on that. Oh, look at you. How are we doing? Everyone done something? Can you hold it up, show it around? Have a look at what you're looking at? Because this is all failing for me now because I can't see a blind thing up there. I'm going to assume they look pretty similar. Are you looking around? Do you see the same sort of things? Because we all know what a vase is. Have we got some... What have we got? What have we got? No? Yes, no? No? Is it exciting? I want to see it. I'm so excited. Show me your designs. Could you now draw me something to display flowers in the home? You don't actually have to. What I need you to do is realise the situation that I just put you in. One was I asked you for something that you immediately knew, and you all, without, obviously you had more problems finding pens than actually drawing the vase. When I then gave you the problem, which was I want to display flowers in my home, almost all of you, and I'm thinking most of you are going to be creators in this room, automatically went, ooh, how can I do that? Ooh, what can I do? And that's what designers do. That's the difference between someone who will just do... When I get a BA who comes to me with a wireframe and I look at it and go, thanks very much. Thanks for doing the requirements in square boxes that we thought of. So I love all that. So it is about... And I'm sure you know all that. You like to solve problems. But solving the problems isn't quite enough because you've actually got to be able to do it within the realms of reality. You've got to do it. It's got to be doable. It's got to be feasible and all that kind of... And that means understanding the parameters of the people that you're working with and the systems that you're working with. So if you understand what's possible, then you'll come up with what you're going through with as a solution. And this is where we go back to the left and the right brain. We as user experience people, we do have some fancy names for a few things that have been around for a really long time. ERDs have been around, entity relationship diagrams. User journeys are just fancy flowcharts, if you've done them right. So we've got Wi-Fi, lo-fi prototypes, hi-fi prototypes. We just make things a bit fancy. And if you just talk to them in things that they understand, it'll connect to their world and they'll understand it. But I think this next slide is the one that really, I think, describes what I think will make a decent user experience person. And it sort of goes back to that little, if you use Sketch, you can be a designer. We've had huge discussions in my department over the last 2 weeks about using Sketch, and it does definitely have its place. But I don't think you can use it unless you know how to be a designer. So the big thing is talent. Talent is what makes you a really good user experience. Design is phenomenal. And I mean, obviously, these are all architecture shop windows, but I think shop windows nowadays just really demonstrate the power of an experience. Selfridges currently has the Apple Watch sitting in this tiny space with whopping great flowers around it. And it's just magnetic. I'm not even an Apple fan. And I'm sitting there going, oh, never buy a watch, but the flowers are pretty. Experience is currency. I said, experience is currency. Is she all right with that? Oh, Siri, how I love you. I don't know where to go now. I've just been... Right. So I think there's a point where you should be proud of what you do. This is my soapbox. I believe in the disciplines. I think you've done things, you should be glad of who you are and what you do. I think if you look through time, what we've been doing, this is, you know, there's nothing clever about this slide at all. But basically, if you look at the left-hand side, it's gone from where we saw... We used to, as user experience people back in the day when we were human factors engineers, we were stuck on flight simulators, British Rail and government and IBM. That's all we had. I was probably part of the first ever consultancy that had usability testing as part of what we did. Before any of the agencies existed, before any of that kind of came along. And we were in there working with this stuff. And it was great because we were working on Reuters trading screens. It's phenomenal. That really teaches you everything about user experience because you've got a noisy environment, you've got multiple screens, you've got audio, you've got visual, you've got everything going on. But now we've got everything that we need to look at. So if you're looking at the internet of anything, so anything we test now, we're testing it on the phone, we're testing it on the desktop. That's just as a minimum. Everything that we do is across so many different bits and pieces. Information architects, you used to just design for this one page loading thing and separate pages, a little bit like designing for mobile now. It just goes like this. Web 2 came along and it suddenly started working like a client-server relationship. You could do all these kind of whizzy things on the page. It's like, wow, you've got to learn how to do this. You've got to react to everything. You've got to know that you touch something there and it affects 14 things over there. Visual design has gone amazingly out of the sphere. It's gone from just doing typography and colours, menus, to all of this beautiful, sexy, glamorous stuff that we can do. Parallax scrolling, all this stuff that we can do. And code, I'm not really giving the code any justice there, because that's obviously massive. I think coders, when you get a really, really good coder who can talk to the back-end guys and talk to the designers, they're just gold dust. Now, I haven't put the copywriters in there because I don't know how much you can say that copy's just got different ways of doing things, but a good copywriter will make your site come alive. They will put personality on it. So that's where I'm sort of, my head is at with all of these. So I'd like to say, become a living legend, not a fable. Do you see? Fables? Unicorns? No. I would say, when I'm looking for people, these would be the things. If I was going to have a unicorn, this is what I'm looking for. You've got to have a certain amount of OCD. You've got to be able to get that attention to detail, and you've got to have, well, I would say blue tacking skills, but there's a gentleman coming up after me who's going to tell you how to be digitally blue tacking things, which is just, again, just another way that we keep progressing and we change what we're doing and how we're doing things. It's just great. I do think there's a lot of science behind what we do, and I don't think a lot of people realise that. I think psychology is a massive part of what we do. And just even from marketing side of things, branding and marketing is such a huge part of what we do, and they understand so much about human beings. I would also say a good salesman understands all of this stuff. If you just go and talk to a good salesman, they'll already tell you, this is what you do, this is how you talk to people, this is what you tell them when you come in. You've got to have a lot of context, you've got to understand what's happened before. The amount of people who come in and go, let's change the world, and you go, well, hang on, we tried to change the world that way before. You might want to learn from some of that. And I like to see a bit of thinking about that. So this is sort of where I go when I'm recruiting people. And yes, I am recruiting, if anybody's interested. Join the dots. You've got to be able to make all of the pieces come together. And I think you'll start to see that really in the Internet of things, of the Internet of everything, as far as I'm concerned, because you've got to think about stuff. You've got to think about cameras. You've got to think about tracking. You've got to think about, am I using a device that's mobile with cordless, whether it'll expire and all this kind of thing will go on, see where that goes. And honest to God, I would just say the experience that you need is not to be able to visually design, code, and be an information architect and do all that thing. So rather than being this horizontal skill, show your depth in the amount of channels that you can use and the amount of devices that you can design for. Because I think that's where you really get, you as an individual would just get so much more, I think, pleasure from what you're doing, because it's so challenging to design the same thing in multiple places. And how do you make that work? How do you just make all those different... It's too blinking scary. I get up in the morning scared witless that somebody's going to come in and sort of say, oh, no, we've designed this new thing and you've got to design for that and all that kind of... It's too much. And then I just wanted to share this with you, because this is another skill that you do have to have. A bit of fortune telling. This just made me chuckle this week, and I just went, oh my God, this is it. The youth are coming. I don't know what to do with them. I'm going to have to retire really early because I'm really not sure what I'm doing with this. All these new generations, the new ways of thinking, I can't even map to. I always make sure that in my team, I have lots of people significantly younger than me. That's not that hard to do anymore, which is a bit of a shame. But then they bring a different energy. They bring a different point of view. And you have to keep listening, and you have to keep realizing that everything is changing. I think we have the best job in the world. The fact that every day something has changed, something is new, not just the technology, but the way that people are thinking, the way that everything's coming together. I think it's just a fabulous... I don't know how I got here, by the way. I had no goals or ambitions. This is not where my career goals were like. I just seem to fall into it. But I love it. It's so exciting. So today, I'm hoping that you have a great conference moving forward. I think this kind of sums it up for you. Designs everything, because anyone can design a product. But the differentiator is how good you are. So it's about talent. It's about showing who you are. What's your special bit that you bring to the table? Everybody has something. Everybody has something that they're phenomenally good at. And I was thinking about bakers earlier, for some reason, and saying, you know, we must be the only industry where they think that they need to be unicorns. You would never get a chef saying, oh, yes, I can do patisserie and I can do main meals and that kind of... They segregate out because they're so damn good at what they do. And we're damn good at what we do. So be good at what you do. And I would say, I've really capped that one, haven't I? Sorry. Apparently I'm allowed questions and answers. I can't imagine what you're going to question me about. Recruiting people?
Questions? Yes. By any chance, are you behind the user journey at those retail store beautiful interface?
No, but I joined. So it's really sad because I've only been with Argos for a couple of months. But I joined because they just get it. They understand. The energy in the company is fantastic. And it still operates like a very small company. So I feel like I'm at the retail front line. So like last week we released Ready for Christmas. We're all part of it. On Black Friday, most of us are going to go and work in a store somewhere because we just know the whole world's going to go off. No, it's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. So yes, I can't claim any credit to it. The credit I can start to take is moving the user experience forward. They didn't have a user experience team until about 18 months ago. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. They've gone so rapidly. It's 3 years, and they've got a 5-year transformation plan. It's fantastic. The energy's great.
Do you have any idea why IDEO claims to have invented the mouse?
Oh, no, sorry, the Apple mouse. I'm sorry, yes. No, because, IDEO's always held up for the Apple mouse because the Apple mouse is amazing and it was their design. But on their website, they declare they did it in 1980. But it was the old one that went with the Lisa and things like that. Yeah, no, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Clarification.
Vanessa, talking unicorns, in my job I see quite a lot of demand for product designers who can visually design, interaction design, wireframe and prototype.
Yes.
Are they the unicorns?
They are the unicorns. Yes, and I genuinely don't believe that they exist. So this is my soapbox, is that I don't believe they exist at all. I've had people turn up, and I think what they do is they I'm going to say it, fart rainbows. And so you get bedazzled by the rainbow, and it is beautiful. And they do beautiful deliverables. And they talk very well, they're very articulate. But and bear in mind also, I come from a background of very big systems. I actually really, really like big, fat, juicy systems. I'm not a banner ad. I love a bit of brochureware here and there, but I think you just bang that out. It's beautiful stuff, and that's where your visual designer makes it all engaging and fantastic. But I've never found a unicorn who will take me to the excellent product that I want. So it's the combination of having an excellent visual designer, an excellent information architect, excellent copywriter, excellent coder, that brings it all together, that makes it into the most amazing thing, I think. Just my thoughts. Sorry to all the unicorns.
With the appearance of unicorns being sort of missing jobs and going forward, where you can see a lot more of it, do you think employers then fully understand what it is they want?
No, I think actually that's one of the main points. It's sort of one of the triggers. It's a little bit like people. When I first started in this, so I was really lucky. I basically ended up in Singapore in 1997, and then from there I've done a kind of round the world tour during the dot-com days. And it was the same thing in the agencies. The agency said, we know we need user experience, but we don't know what it is and we don't know how to do it. But what they did was at least they brought me in and let me just get on with it. So that was really good. So I could build the teams up and I could do what I needed to do. That's kind of happening now with jobs. So I left the UK 4 years ago to go down to Australia again. And when I left, there were very few heads of user experience roles coming up. People here still believe that the creative director was the person that, that was a role they understood, that was a role that they knew, and that was the way that it went. Head of user experience didn't really exist. They were sort of going, no, but that's just like, you just do interaction design over there, don't you? And it's like, no, I think of it as the umbrella that goes over everything. And so when I've come back, all of a sudden, there is a plethora of head of UX jobs. They're all over the place. So clearly something's changed in the shift over here as things have gone on. But so my bank example earlier, there were several of them. I had one particular, I'll give you the irony of something. So somebody, a job came up, so I'm sitting in Sydney trying to get a job over here. And I'm connected to most of the recruiters up here, so they should know me. And this job came in, they sent it to 5 agencies. They wanted someone who's done big projects, knows how to talk to technology teams, has lived in, you know, gets Hong Kong, has lived in Hong Kong, and you're basically ticking off my entire CV. And via this recruiter, sorry, I did tell you I was going to do this. Via this recruiter, I got the message back, oh, they don't think your CV's relevant. And I went, what have I done? I'm all about information layout. What the hell have I done? Went back, looked at it, I don't get it. This week, that very same company called me and asked me to come in for the job. And I went, interesting. And it was just the recruiter that had kind of blocked things. But also something must have happened at their end that they just didn't quite, somebody who was doing it didn't quite know what they were looking for. And I do think that happens. There's a lot of people in HR who don't understand what we're looking for. And they're the first blocker, because if they don't know, then you can't get past the HR person to the people that need to talk.
Great. Just a quick question. Show of hands, how many people buy the unicorn concept? All those who do, please raise your hands.
Look at that. So I didn't even need to be here.
Please put your hands together for Vanessa. That was